Alternative ending: reincarnation of the strongest sword god. Chapter 111 Ancient City takes shape. Jinhai City, Kingzhou Villa District. After spending the day at the secret pavilion's branch headquarters, Shi Feng hurriedly returned to his villa to rest. In reality, those touring the branch headquarters could choose to spend the night there. However, when Shi Feng considered the bottle of S-rank nutrient fluid he got from Qi Lianshan and the 11,100 association points he earned from the instructor certification test, he didn't wish to waste even a moment longer there. Thus, he left the branch headquarters ahead of time. 1 bottle of life potion and 6 bottles of S-rank nutrient fluid. These supplements should be enough to heal my body's injuries and replenish my cells' vitality, Shi Feng thought expectantly as he looked at the 7 bottles he had just placed into the refrigerator. The God's Domain Association's points could be exchanged for resources at the association branches located in the various cities. To avoid attracting trouble to himself, Shi Feng had chosen to conceal his identity and exchanged his points at Liu Feng City's association branch before returning to Jinhai City. Meanwhile, he had spent all but 100 points to exchange for 1 bottle of life potion and 5 bottles of S-rank nutrient fluid. Fortunately, as Liu Feng City was a first-tier city, the association branch there had all the resources the association offered. Moreover, the exchange system was operated by AI. So long as he had enough points to exchange for the items he selected, the AI would send fully automated robots to deliver the items to him. No human was involved in the entire process, so there was no need to worry that his identity would get exposed. Meanwhile, with 6 bottles of S-rank nutrient fluid and 1 bottle of life potion, he should be able to elevate his physical fitness to the standard of master martial artists. Most importantly, the life potion would rejuvenate his cells, returning him to his prime of youth. At that time, he would no longer have to worry about facing bottlenecks when developing his body. While Shi Feng was conducting meditation training to put his mind and body into the perfect condition to consume and absorb the drugs, Blackie suddenly contacted him with an anxious expression on his face. "Guild leader, I just received news that the balance between the various powers has been broken because of the God's Domain Association. Now, the various powers have started competing for leveling spots in both the main continent and the miniature ancient world. Battles involving tens of thousands of players have even taken place in a few places already," Blackie said in a helpless tone. "Right now, the various first-rate guilds and guild alliances have already locked down all leveling maps under level 110 in the miniature ancient world. They're not letting any outsiders set foot into these maps. Qinliu's side has even clashed with some teams already. Although they've won every fight so far, we've also suffered a lot of casualties. Currently, although Zero Wing's internal members were ahead of the various guilds in terms of levels, their optimum leveling spots were still level 105 to level 110 leveling maps due to the inconvenience of travel. Originally, few guilds would send their teams out to these maps, so Zero Wing's internal members got to enjoy ample leveling resources. However, now that the various guilds were laying claim over these maps, it became a lot more challenging for Zero Wing to monopolize these resources. Although Zero Wing's members could fend off those who tried to hinder them, most of the opponents they faced were experts from the various first-rate guilds. Fighting against these experts while grinding would lower their grinding efficiency significantly. Moreover, as a small guild, the last thing Zero Wing wanted was to have a protracted fight with a large guild. After all, a large guild could afford to have a portion of their members keep Zero Wing busy while the rest of their members focused on leveling up rapidly. That is indeed a problem. Shi Feng fell into thought for a moment when he heard Blackie's report. Then, he said, have them switch to grinding in level 110 plus maps for now. Although their leveling efficiency will still decrease, it will still be better than if they stayed and fought. Also, you don't need to worry about recruiting new members. Just focus on leveling up for now. Okay. I'll notify Qinliu and the others, Blackie said. After giving the matter some thought, he felt that this was the only solution they had right now. After Blackie disconnected the call, Shi Feng also stopped meditating, took out a bottle of S-rank nutrient fluid from the refrigerator, and emptied it into his stomach. It seems I'll have to accelerate the Abyssal Star City's construction. Although Shi Feng had more or less expected the various powers to make a big move after the instructor certification test, he didn't think they would act so quickly. He also didn't expect the competition to reach the miniature ancient world as well. After drinking the S-rank nutrient fluid and feeling a warm feeling spreading throughout his body, Shi Feng lied into his virtual gaming cabin and logged into God's domain. Misty Canyon, Abyssal Star Ancient City. When Shi Feng logged back into the game, he found that the Abyssal Star City had undergone massive changes. Shi Feng was stunned when he saw the pedestrians walking along the city's main street. The once deserted ancient city had become populated by numerous NPCs in less than a day. Moreover, many of these NPCs were merchants and adventurers. NPC merchants and NPC adventurers might be a common sight in towns and cities, but it was incredibly strange to see so many of these NPCs in a city that had been summoned only recently. It should be known that NPC merchants and NPC adventurers were crucial for a city's early-stage development. After all, a city could only rent its shops out if there were NPC merchants seeking to rent them, and a city's shops would also only have products to sell if NPC merchants were renting them. Meanwhile, a city could only defend itself if there were NPC adventurers applying to become guards. If a city lacked sufficient NPC guards, it couldn't even maintain basic public security. NPC guards were especially important for the Abyssal Star City since it sat in the monster-infested Misty Canyon. Meanwhile, after seeing how rapidly the Abyssal Star Ancient City had developed, Shi Feng couldn't help but admit that Hidden Soul was indeed a capable person. System: Abyssal Star Ancient City has accumulated 2,000 popularity points and 500 city guards. Do you wish to spend 20,000 magic crystals to unlock the Abyssal Star Advanced Workshop? Chapter 112 Ancient Workshop. An advanced workshop? Shi Feng couldn't help but be surprised when he saw the system notification. Shi Feng was no stranger to workshops. Once a guild city reached the main city rank, players could construct a workshop in the city simply by spending coins and magic crystals. Meanwhile, exactly as its name suggested, the workshop was a place for the various lifestyle classes to conduct their work. At the same time, it also possessed some of the Lifestyle Association's functions, such as issuing NPC commissions and trade offers. Not only could lifestyle players acquire rare resources through the workshop, but they also had a certain chance to acquire designs and recipes from NPCs, thereby increasing their lifestyle standards. In addition, the workshop would also sell materials needed by the various lifestyle classes for crafting basic items. Sometimes, it would even sell rare materials cheaply. However, while acquiring a basic workshop might be a straightforward process, acquiring an advanced workshop was a whole other story. The advanced workshop was no longer something players could unlock simply by spending coins and magic crystals. Instead, players needed to acquire the construction design for it. Meanwhile, an advanced workshop was a qualitative leap from a basic workshop. In the case of a basic workshop, it would, at most, have basic, advanced, and special workrooms. Although these workrooms could help increase players' production success rate, the increase was limited and would not exceed 10%. However, it was an entirely different story for an advanced workshop. Even the most inferior workroom in an advanced workshop would be at the special rank. Other than special workrooms, there were also magic workrooms that could increase players' production rate by 25%. In God's domain, many Master and Grandmaster lifestyle players would often defect to another power just so that they could have the privilege of using a magic workroom. If news got out that the Abyssal Star Ancient City had unlocked an advanced workshop, the various superpowers would definitely lose their minds. After all, this was an advanced workshop inside the miniature ancient world. Unlock it. Shi Feng chose to unlock the advanced workshop without hesitation. Previously, He had already stocked up 100,000 magic crystals in Abyssal Star City. Although spending 20,000 magic crystals so quickly hurt his heart, it was a small price to pay for an advanced workshop. Now that there was an advanced workshop in Abyssal Star City, it meant that Zero Wing would have no problem attracting lifestyle players to join. The importance of lifestyle players was no less than combat players. This was because a considerable portion of God's Domain's epic weapons and equipment came from the hands of lifestyle players. Some lifestyle players were even capable of crafting fragmented legendary items. Moreover, compared to items obtained from loot, items created by players were a much better fit for players. It was especially true for epic and fragmented legendary items. This was because items of such rank were typically made to fit the players who would use them. Meanwhile, because these items were made to fit the user, the players using these custom-made items could exhibit close to 100% of these items' potential. In comparison, an ordinary expert would, at most, be able to exhibit 70% of a looted item's potential, while peak experts could exhibit only 90%. In addition, when using a looted item, players would have to adapt their combat style to the item's characteristics instead of the other way around. Depending on how much change players had to make, it might lead to a further reduction in strength. Hence, all experts at the Void Realm standard or above would almost always use custom-made items. It didn't matter even if acquiring these items cost them 10 times more than what they would normally have to pay for an item of the same quality. The only times when experts of such caliber would use looted items were when the items in question possessed incredible basic attributes or effects. Because of this, almost every Master and Grandmaster lifestyle players in God's Domain had a waiting list of several years. Moreover, if one was making a commission with a lifestyle player who wasn't affiliated to one's guild, one would typically have to pay a much greater price for custom-made items. However, now that Zero Wing had an advanced workshop, Zero Wing's members would no longer have to worry about custom-made weapons and equipment in the future. Meanwhile, after Shi Feng chose to unlock the Abyssal Star Advanced Workshop, a rather dilapidated 5-story building along the city's main street suddenly took on a new and vibrant look. Why does this advanced workshop occupy such a big area? Shi Feng was a little surprised when he looked at the 5-story workshop. The workshop's building matched the size of a sports stadium, and it was nearly twice as big as the advanced workshops Shi Feng had seen before. However, Shi Feng didn't put too much thought into the matter. Immediately, he walked into the workshop to inspect it. It seems I have really underestimated the Abyssal Star Ancient City. With its abilities, it can probably rank among the top 3 even within the second sequence. After Shi Feng was done inspecting the Abyssal Star Advanced Workshop, he couldn't help but take in a deep breath as he tried to calm his restless heart. If he were to describe the city's ancient tower as a holy land for players to develop their control over mana, then the Abyssal Star Advanced Workshop would be a holy land for lifestyle players. Not only did the Abyssal Star Advanced Workshop have 400 special workrooms, but it even had 60 magic workrooms. These numbers were more than double that of the average advanced workshop. In addition, the Abyssal Star Advanced Workshop also had 9 incredibly special rooms that could be described as miniature worlds. Meanwhile, these workrooms were named the Sage's Room. In these 9 Sage's Rooms, players could simulate the production process of an item simply by spending some magic crystals. Without wasting precious materials, players could familiarize themselves with an item's production process, thereby increasing their production success rate. For Master and Grandmaster lifestyle players seeking to produce epic and fragmented legendary items, the function of these Sage's Rooms was something they dreamed of having. After all, the materials needed to produce epic and fragmented legendary items were incredibly precious. Even the 5 great super guilds wouldn't dare let their lifestyle players practice with these materials. So, it wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that the Sage's Room simulation function was priceless. Moreover, this simulation function wasn't everything the Sage's Room had to offer. The Sage's Room still had one more function, and it was even more amazing than the simulation function. Legacy guidance. Indeed. Legacy guidance for lifestyle players. In an era where almost all lifestyle legacies had vanished from God's domain, the Sage's Room's ability to offer legacy guidances was utterly unimaginable. However, it wasn't completely accurate to say that the Sage's Room provided players with legacy guidances. Rather than providing players with theoretical knowledge, the Sage's Room granted players a buff that increased their lifestyle rank by 1 while inside the room. In addition, the Sage's Room would also provide players with a simulation of the best possible method to produce a designated item, allowing players to have a clear goal when producing the designated item. Even so, this function would shake the entirety of God's domain should it be made known to the public. After all, in the current God's domain, the only legacies that lifestyle players had to go by were textual descriptions of production techniques. They were not given any clear requirements or goals they needed to achieve to learn these techniques. This was why the development of lifestyle players was incapable of keeping up with the development of combat players, who possessed complete combat systems. Compared to subworlds with complete lifestyle systems, the development of lifestyle players in this subworld was at a snail's pace. Chapter 113 Emerging Strength. This is going to be a headache. Shi Feng couldn't help but feel his head hurting when he finished looking through the Abyssal Star Advanced Workshop's information. If he was merely dealing with an ordinary advanced workshop, he could have recruited lifestyle players without worry. However, with the presence of the Sage's Rooms, he had to be extra careful when recruiting lifestyle players. If handled poorly, the Abyssal Star Advanced Workshop might bring an end to the Abyssal Star Ancient City. However, Shi Feng didn't mull over this matter for too long. Since he had already picked up this hot potato, there was nothing he could do but wait for Zero Wing's mercenary alliance to grow sufficiently strong. Setting aside the Sage's Room, the Abyssal Star Advanced Workshop had another amazing function. More specifically, all advanced workshops had this function recruiting lifestyle NPCs. Depending on an advanced workshop's popularity, it could even recruit master lifestyle NPCs. Meanwhile, master lifestyle NPCs should be enough to cope with the demands of the current miniature ancient world. After walking up to the workshop's front desk, Shi Feng activated the workshop's recruitment function. Then, in less than 2 hours, applications from NPCs began appearing before Shi Feng one after another. Amazing! This workshop has only opened recently, yet there are already master lifestyle NPCs applying to join. Shi Feng couldn't help but be flabbergasted when he looked through the system message bar. Normally, an advanced workshop would not attract any master lifestyle NPCs as soon as it opened. Applications from master lifestyle NPCs would only start appearing a few days after the workshop's opening. Moreover, only 1 or 2 would appear. Yet, now, in just 2 hours, the Abyssal Star Advanced Workshop had already received applications from more than 10 master lifestyle NPCs. One of them was even a master forger. In addition, this master forger was only asking for 100 gold per day, which was only half of the standard price on the main continent. With this, I won't have to get Blackie to recruit master forgers and alchemists. After looking at the long list of applications, Shi Feng chose to hire all 15 of the master lifestyle NPCs that applied. Of these NPCs, 14 were basic masters, while 1 was an advanced master forger. Thankfully, I already have the designs ready. Otherwise, these NPCs are going to bankrupt Zero Wing. Shi Feng couldn't help but sigh ruefully as he looked at the total cost of hiring these 15 NPCs. Each of the 14 basic masters cost 40 gold per day to hire, while the advanced master cost 100 gold. In total, it cost 660 gold per day to hire these 15 NPCs. In the miniature ancient world, even third-rate guilds would have difficulty supporting a daily expenditure of 660 gold. Firstly, unlike on the main continent, income sources were incredibly limited in the current miniature ancient world. Guilds did not have any guild towns or cities to provide them with large amounts of coins. Right now, the only way guilds could earn coins reliably was by selling equipment and having guild members do quests. Secondly, although the various guilds had sent many players into the miniature ancient world, everyone was just starting out here. Thus, everyone had significant daily expenditures. If not for players being allowed to bring 1,000 gold with them when they entered the miniature ancient world, the various guilds would probably be dead ass poor right now. Meanwhile, after the NPCs Shi Feng hired arrived at the workshop, Shi Feng approached a white-clad old man. Then, he took out the ancient mana equipment set design he had obtained from the ancient demon court and asked, "Master Horn, how likely are you to succeed in manufacturing this set?" Hornsolent, an advanced master forger. On the main continent, even the king of a kingdom would treat him with courtesy. A mana equipment set. Horn caressed his white beard and fell into thought as he looked at the design. Then, after some time had passed, he said, "Roughly 40%. 40. Shi Feng nodded in satisfaction when he heard the old man's answer. The ancient mana equipment set was extraordinary. If he had a player of the same rank produce it, their success rate would probably be under 30%. I'll leave this design with you, then, Master Horn. I'll also have the other masters assist you as much as they can." With the Sage's Room's effects, Horn's success rate should increase past 50%. It cost 1,000 magic crystals and 100 gold's worth of other materials to produce an ancient mana equipment set. If the production success rate was over 50%, each set should only cost 2,000 magic crystals and 200 gold to produce. Even if this standardized ancient mana equipment set was slightly inferior to the sets obtained from the ancient demon court, they were still far stronger than dark gold equipment sets. Currently, what Zero Wing lacked most were weapons and equipment. Although Sokyun Lia's Thousand Flow adventurer team had brought in many epic weapons and equipment from the main continent, there still wasn't enough to equip everyone in the guild. After all, even top-tier first-rate guilds could not fully equip all their experts in epic weapons and equipment. They could only acquire enough to gear their main force members at most. Moreover, most of these epic weapons and equipment were individual pieces rather than sets. For the average expert in first-rate guilds, they'd be fortunate to have 2 or 3 pieces of epic equipment. Meanwhile, the 8-piece dark gold ranked ancient mana equipment set was inferior only to 8-piece epic equipment sets. In some cases, the mana equipment set excelled even more than epic equipment sets. If he could equip every Zero Wing member with a set, Zero Wing's overall combat power would definitely skyrocket. Afterward, Shi Feng joined Horn and the other masters in producing the ancient mana equipment set. Shi Feng wasn't just a tier 6 sword god in the past. He was also a grandmaster forger. Although he was only a basic apprentice forger with 0 lifestyle EXP right now, he still remembered all the forging techniques he had learned in the past. While Shi Feng might not be able to produce the whole set by himself, he could still help in producing some parts of the set. It was especially true when it came to refining metals and magic crystals. These tasks didn't require lifestyle levels and relied entirely on technique. Meanwhile, with the techniques Shi Feng had honed, he achieved a 60% success rate when refining, which was 10% higher than the NPC masters. This, in turn, increased the overall production success rate of the ancient mana equipment set by a little. In just 2 days, Shi Feng and the NPCs had successfully produced 50 ancient mana equipment sets. Shi Feng had also leveled up from 105 to 106 thanks to all the parts he had produced. His leveling speed was not at all inferior to players grinding out in the fields. In addition, he had leveled up twice in his forging standard, going from a basic apprentice forger into an advanced apprentice forger. Now, he was only missing a few more proficiency points to become a basic forger. However, in producing all these ancient mana equipment sets, Shi Feng had also exhausted Zero Wing's stockpile of magic crystals. If not for the large number of NPC merchants contributing 70,000 magic crystals and 20,000 gold in rent these past 2 days, Zero Wing would have long since gone bankrupt. Just when Shi Feng was about to continue crafting some parts to level up into a basic forger, he suddenly received a call notification. Meanwhile, the caller was none other than Mysterious Moon's Zhou Yalin. Seeing as you are contacting me now, did something happen over at the Darkmoon outpost, Miss Nightingale? Shi Feng asked when he saw the tired look on Zhou Yalin's face. According to his agreement with Zhou Yalin, there should still be 2 days until the battle for the Darkmoon outpost began. Something has indeed happened, Zhou Yalin said with a bitter smile. I'm afraid we will have to cancel our previous agreement, Mr. Black Flame. World domination has just moved into 100 Flow City and laid claim over every map that drops the tokens for the Darkmoon outpost. First-rate guilds like Mysterious Moon stand no chance against it. Of course, Mysterious Moon will still compensate you with 10,000 gold. Ever since the God's Domain Association's temple trial, the entirety of God's Domain had undergone a massive change. Every leveling spot in the miniature ancient world had also transformed into a battlefield between the various powers. Originally, Zhou Yalin thought that Mysterious Moon stood a chance at securing the Darkmoon outpost since only a few first-rate guilds were competing for it. However, after world domination moved into 100 Flow City, all of her plans had become a joke. Currently, although Mysterious Moon still retained its hold over some of its leveling spots, every map that dropped the Darkmoon token had become a forbidden zone thanks to world domination. Although Mysterious Moon had collected over 60 Darkmoon tokens thus far, that wouldn't be enough to secure the Darkmoon outpost. This was because the closer they got to the day of the competition, the higher the drop rate for the Darkmoon tokens would become. If world domination monopolized all of the token maps for the next 2 days, it would have a huge advantage in numbers during the competition. World domination has come to 100 Flow City. Shi Feng wasn't particularly surprised to learn about this news. The rewards the God's Domain Association offered were incredibly lucrative, so it wasn't strange for even the various superpowers to make a move. Miss Nightingale, forget the compensation. How about making a deal with Zero Wing? A deal? Zhou Yalin was a little confused as she looked at Shi Feng. May I know what kind of deal, Mr. Black Flame? It's a huge pity to just give up on the Darkmoon outpost now. The Darkmoon outpost is the nearest resting point for level 110 maps. We'll need to wait 1 whole month if we give up on the competition this time. How about we work together to secure it? Shi Feng asked. Of course, once we secure the Darkmoon outpost, I want half of the shops, including the only large shop in the outpost. I also want half of the outpost's revenue. What do you think? Zhou Yalin couldn't help but look at Shi Feng in disbelief when she heard his words. Mr. Black Flame, don't tell me you plan on attacking world domination. Chapter 114 Zero Wing's Strength. Zhou Yalin was both shocked and frightened by Shi Feng's suggestion. This was a super guild they were talking about. Even if world domination wasn't one of the 5 great super guilds, it was still a veteran super guild that had been publicly acknowledged as such since God's Domain's launch. Although one could often see top-tier first-rate guilds behaving fearlessly against a super guild, that was only on the surface. However, it was a completely different story when it came to attacking a super guild. Zhou Yalin would be lying if she said she wasn't frightened by Shi Feng's suggestion. As an executive of a first-rate guild, Zhou Yalin possessed a much greater understanding of super guilds than second- and third-rate guilds in God's domain. Or, more specifically, the stronger a power was in God's domain, the more afraid they would be of super guilds. This was because super guilds were nowhere close to being as simple as they seemed on the surface. Otherwise, instances of non-superpowers going up against super guilds and coming out on top wouldn't be regarded as legends. Are you not interested in the Darkmoon outpost, Miss Nightingale? Shi Feng asked with a smile. Of course not, Zhou Yalin denied, shaking her head. Once ahead, always ahead. It wasn't an exaggeration to say that mana outposts located close to NPC cities were the most important economic resource for a power during the early stages of the miniature ancient world. If a power failed to secure a mana outpost on this first round, even if it secured an outpost a month later, the coins and resources it could earn through the outpost would be significantly lower than the income the outpost generated on the first month. Not to mention, the difficulty of snatching an outpost would rise exponentially after the first competition. After all, the powers that had occupied the mana outposts in the first month would have utilized the outposts to generate a massive income, which, in turn, could be used to boost their development in the miniature ancient world. Currently, what mattered the most to the various powers of God's domain wasn't the resources available in the miniature ancient world. Instead, what mattered most to the various powers was to cross the boundary river and reach the neutral zone as soon as possible. This was because whoever managed to take control of the neutral zone would become the leading force of the two gods' domains in the future. Hence, the various powers were seeking to get their players to level 120 and enter the neutral zone to make preparations to control it as soon as possible. After taking a deep breath, Zhou Yelin said, "World Domination is a super guild. Even if only a portion of its members is in 100 Flow City, it still isn't an opponent we can go up against. After all, aside from its own members, World Domination still has many affiliated powers. Just in 100 Flow City alone, there is one first-rate guild and 3 second-rate guilds affiliated to World Domination. The number of first-rate experts World Domination has far surpasses ours. Aside from having many powerful experts, super guilds also had many affiliated powers working for them. Otherwise, there was no way a super guild could control the massive territory they occupied. Not to mention, they were currently in the early stages of the miniature ancient world. While the quality of experts still mattered to a certain extent, quantity played a much more important role now that everyone was at Tier 3. Meanwhile, World Domination had an overwhelming advantage over Mysterious Moon when it came to the quantity of experts they possessed. Even if Mysterious Moon had a Tier 6 God-ranked expert on its side, it still couldn't go against World Domination. The competition for the Darkmoon outpost wasn't a simple clash between players. Firstly, there were the Darkmoon tokens needed to participate in the actual competition. The maps the Darkmoon tokens dropped at were massive, and Tier 3 players would need around 8 hours just to run from one side to another. Even if Shi Feng decided to go after World Domination's players, he wouldn't be able to kill many of them. Thus, World Domination could still collect a large number of tokens before the competition began. Secondly, the actual competition for the outpost involved players killing monsters for resources and occupying resource nodes. Even if Shi Feng was powerful, there was a limit to what a single player could do. If Mysterious Moon went along with Shi Feng's plans and attacked World Domination, not only would World Domination still secure the Darkmoon outpost, but Mysterious Moon would also end up having to suffer World Domination's retaliation afterward. I know. If we are only talking about first-rate experts, Mysterious Moon naturally cannot beat World Domination, Shi Feng said, nodding. But what if Mysterious Moon has more experts with Tier 4 combat power than World Domination? Mysterious Moon having more Tier 4 combatants than World Domination? Impossible, Zhou Yelin said as she looked at Shi Feng in confusion. While Mysterious Moon had indeed dispatched a large number of experts to garrison 100 Flow City, there were only 3 experts with Tier 4 combat power. Moreover, that was only because they had combat standards at the Flowing Water Realm and were geared with top-tier epic weapons that were close to rivaling fragmented legendary weapons and Hall of Fame level epic equipment sets. Compared to World Domination, the number of Tier 4 combatants Mysterious Moon possessed was nothing. Setting aside World Domination's affiliated powers, just World Domination itself probably had more than a dozen Tier 4 combatants in 100 Flow City. After all, Hall of Fame level equipment sets might be difficult to acquire for first-rate guilds, but crafting such sets would be no difficulty for World Domination, a guild with plenty of Master and Grandmaster lifestyle players. It was even possible that every Flowing Water Realm expert or above in World Domination was geared with such a set. Although epic weapons that rivaled fragmented legendary weapons might be rarer, these experts could simply make up the gap with their combat standards. Of course it wouldn't be possible if we rely only on your guild. However, it is a different story if you have Zero Wings assistance, Shi Feng said. However, instead of explaining his plans, he asked, how many refinement realm experts does Mysterious Moon have right now? There are 34 in 100 Flow City and a few more in other NPC cities. I should be able to gather 40 within a short period, Zhou Yelin said, not bothering to withhold this information. It wasn't difficult for a first-rate power to find out how many refinement realm experts other first-rate powers had sent into the miniature ancient world, so there was no point in keeping this a secret from Shi Feng. 40? Shi Feng was a little surprised. He had to admit that Mysterious Moon indeed deserved to be regarded as a top-tier first-rate guild. The number of experts Mysterious Moon had dispatched to the miniature ancient world was only a small portion of its members. After all, the guild's main operations remained on the main continent. Yet, Mysterious Moon still had 40 refinement realm experts in the miniature ancient world. In other words, Mysterious Moon should have at least 200 refinement realm experts in total. That was an overwhelming difference compared to second and third-rate guilds with no refinement realm experts. Seeing a lack of response from Shi Feng, Zhou Yelin said, "This is already the limit. Although I can ask headquarters to send more people, it is a huge risk. Moreover, if they had a real chance at securing the Darkmoon outpost, she could certainly try to persuade her superiors to send more experts into the miniature ancient world. However, the consequences of failure were not something Mysterious Moon could afford to bear. No need. This many is enough. Now, it just depends on whether Mysterious Moon decides to go along with this partnership or not," Shi Feng calmly said. "If your side doesn't have any problems, you can have these refinement realm experts gather in 100 Flow City. Zero Wing will help you secure the Darkmoon outpost." Despite Shi Feng's calm words, Zhou Yelin still couldn't help but grow anxious. However, when she thought about how these words came from a power capable of sending a Tier 6 God-ranked expert into the miniature ancient world, she felt that Zero Wing must have its reasons for being so confident. So, after pondering for a moment, she gritted her teeth and said, "Okay. I'll contact them right away." Afterward, Zhou Yelin hung up the call and began contacting the guild's core experts. Chapter 115 Confrontation. Inside a luxurious 5-story mansion in 100 Flow City. Currently, 40 players who had reached level 103 were gathered inside the mansion's 5th-floor conference room. All 40 of these players were fully geared in epic equipment, and they radiated an aura that would instill fear into an ordinary Tier 3 expert. Some of these players even radiated dense bloodlust, their bodies surrounded by a faint layer of red mist. "Why did you suddenly gather us here, Nightingale? Did something happen?" the 30-year-old man radiating the densest bloodlust asked as he looked at Zhou Yelin coldly, his voice showing no respect for her whatsoever. "You should know how important the Crimson Mist Legion's missions are. We do not have time to waste here with you." The man's unforgiving words caused the Mysterious Moon experts present to fall silent, none of them daring to say a word as they looked at Zhou Yelin. The Crimson Mist Legion. It was the only trump card legion Mysterious Moon possessed, and the legion's commander was Crimson Seal, the grim-looking man speaking to Zhou Yelin. At the same time, Crimson Seal was also one of Mysterious Moon's vice-guild leaders. Normally, Crimson Seal should have been responsible for overseeing Mysterious Moon's operations in the miniature ancient world. However, the guild leader had decided to leave this responsibility to Zhou Yelin to nurture her into one of the guild's future leaders. Hence, Zhou Yelin was technically Crimson Seal's superior in the miniature ancient world. However, because of this situation, Crimson Seal ended up having great opinions about Zhou Yelin. After all, in terms of management capabilities and combat standards, Crimson Seal was still significantly superior to Zhou Yelin. It was especially true when it came to combat standards. In Mysterious Moon, Crimson Seal was a Void Realm expert capable of ranking within the top 5 in the guild, and he was just half a step away from reaching the Domain Realm. In contrast, Zhou Yelin was only a Flowing Water Realm expert. However, Zhou Yelin had long since gotten used to Crimson Seal's strictness. So, She smiled and said, Vice Guild Leader Seal, I know the Guild Leader has assigned many missions to you, but I have gathered everyone here today to make an important announcement. An important announcement? With eyes full of disdain, Crimson Seal said, what do you think can be more important than collecting the tokens for the Twin Lions City's Greyhawk outpost? World Domination's entry into 100 Flow City had thoroughly messed up Mysterious Moon's original plans, and this forced Mysterious Moon with no choice but to move their base of operations to the Twin Lions City. Meanwhile, the competition for the Greyhawk outpost, the Mana outpost closest to the Twin Lions City, was already closing. Some of 100 Flow City's other first-rate guilds had also moved to the Twin Lions City. Thus, competition for the Greyhawk outpost was going to be much more intense than the competition for the Darkmoon outpost. The Darkmoon outpost. Zhou Yalin said in a serious tone. We have already invested a lot into 100 Flow City. We will incur massive losses if we give up on it now. My intention is for us to follow our original plans and continue competing for the Darkmoon outpost. As soon as Zhou Yalin finished speaking, many people in the room couldn't help but gasp and look at her in disbelief. A super guild. This was a giant mountain that towered above the many first-rate guilds in God's domain. Many people in Mysterious Moon might think that their guild had no reason to fear a confrontation with a super guild, but core members like them know that this was nothing but a delusional fantasy. As core members of the guild, they knew just how big of a gap there existed between Mysterious Moon and a super guild. Compete for the Darkmoon outpost. Crimson Seal couldn't help but laugh when he heard Zhou Yalin's words. Are you telling us to attack world domination? That's right. Zhou Yalin nodded. Are you insane, Nightingale? Crimson Seal abruptly stood up from his seat and glared at Zhou Yalin. The guild leader might have left you in charge of the guild's affairs in the miniature ancient world, but he did not grant you permission to send the entire guild to the grave. At this moment, other than Lin Yayu, who sat beside Zhou Yalin, everyone else in the room couldn't help but deeply agree with Crimson Seal. That's right. While I understand you find it difficult to accept losing the investments we have made in 100 Flow City, you can't joke around using the guild's future, Vice Commander Nightingale. World domination might not have sent many people to 100 Flow City, but their experts still outnumber us by a large margin. We will only be seeking our own deaths by competing with world domination. Based on our findings, world domination has dispatched 3 legions to 100 Flow City this time. Of them, there is even a trump card legion led by World Domination's Vice Guild leader Zhou Tiankuang. You are aware of how powerful World Domination's trump card legions are, right, Vice Commander Nightingale? Of each legion's 1,000 members, even the weakest among them is at the half-step refinement realm, and many among them are at the refinement realm. The team leaders in the legion are also at the refinement realm's peak at the very least. With our forces, how can we even hope to compete with world domination? For second-rate guilds and below, they would only know that super guilds were existences that shouldn't be offended. However, they were unaware of how powerful a super guild was exactly. A half-step refinement realm expert that would be treated as an integral member of a first-rate guild would be nothing but the weakest member in a super guild's 1,000-man trump card legions. Even in a super guild's normal 1,000-man legions, a half-step refinement realm expert could, at most, become a team leader, while the normal members of the legion were first-rate experts at the very least. Meanwhile, World Domination had dispatched 2 normal legions and 1 trump card legion to 100 Flow City. Faced against such a force, it wouldn't matter even if every first-rate guild in 100 Flow City banded together. They still wouldn't be able to go against these 3 legions from World Domination. Indeed. This was the difference between a first-rate guild and a super guild. The two were standing on entirely different levels. I understand your concerns, Zhou Yalin said patiently after hearing everyone's objections. Which is why Mysterious Moon wouldn't be the only one competing for the Darkmoon outpost this time. Zero Wing will also be assisting us. Zero Wing. Upon hearing Zhou Yalin's words, everyone quickly thought of something. Is it the guild established in 100 Flow City by that outer world god-ranked expert? Although Zero Wing's existence remained a secret in Mysterious Moon, everyone present was a core expert of the guild. So, they had more or less heard about Zero Wing and its origins. While Mysterious Moon had thought of partnering with Zero Wing previously, the demands of Zero Wing's guild leader Black Flame were simply far too much for Mysterious Moon to accept. Currently, though, Zero Wing was nothing but an empty shell of a guild. The only noteworthy expert in Zero Wing was Black Flame. As for the 1000 Flow adventurer team that had joined the guild, it was nothing but an insignificant existence. Meanwhile, Crimson Seal sat down again and sneered, saying, "Nightingale, Zero Wing might have a god-ranked expert, but the Darkmoon outpost's problem isn't something just one god-ranked expert can resolve." At this moment, even Lin Yayu couldn't help but be confused by Zhou Yalin's decision, let alone Crimson Seal. While Black Flame was indeed powerful, with Zero Wing in its current state, there was very little the guild could do in the miniature ancient world, much less clash against a super guild in a direct confrontation. However, before Zhou Yalin could offer a response, a knocking sound suddenly came from the door. Then, the person outside the conference room loudly reported, "Vice Commander Nightingale, Black Flame, and his companion have arrived at the mansion's entrance. Should I let them in?" "Invite them in." Chapter 116 Ice Queen. The conference room fell silent when everyone heard Zhou Yalin's words. None of them thought Zhou Yalin had invited Black Flame to this conference. "What do you think this little girl is trying to do, Vice Guild Leader? Is she really intent on fighting for the Darkmoon outpost?" the 50-year-old thin man dressed like a knight sitting next to Crimson Seal asked in a whisper. "I don't know." Crimson Seal shook his head. Then, in a resolute voice, he said, "But if that really is the case, I will have no choice but to carry out the guild leader's secret command and deprive her of her authority. I guess that's the only thing we can do if she is bent on having her way," the thin man said, nodding. Then, he let out a sigh and muttered, "But it truly is a pity." Their guild leader and great elder had already designated Zhou Yalin as the future leader of Mysterious Moon. Meanwhile, with the miniature ancient world's launch, the guild leader had decided to use this opportunity to nurture Zhou Yalin. However, the miniature ancient world was crucial to Mysterious Moon's future. So, as a preventive measure, the guild leader had also sent vice guild leader Crimson Seal and several other old fellows like him to the miniature ancient world. On the one hand, they would be assisting Zhou Yalin in managing the guild. On the other hand, they would be testing Zhou Yalin's capabilities. Currently, though, they couldn't help but find Zhou Yalin's behavior to be a little too over the board. It was simply absurd to fight against world dominators just to salvage the guild's losses. Let alone them, even the guild leader and great elder probably wouldn't wish to see the guild's future successor have such a behavior. Meanwhile, so long as vice guild leader Crimson Seal carried out the guild leader's secret command, it would mean that Zhou Yalin would thoroughly lose her qualifications to become the guild's future successor. After all, if a guild wished to survive for a long time, its leaders would need to know when to cut their losses and seek other alternatives. Stubbornly insisting on a path would simply plunge the guild into the abyss. While Crimson Seal and the vice commander of the Crimson Mist Legion were having a hushed conversation, the conference room doors suddenly opened. A moment later, a man and a woman walked into the room. The man wore a black cloak and had a pitch-black longsword hanging by his waist, while the woman wore a luxurious dark red mage's robe. At a glance, the man looked like he was a wanderer in the wilderness, while the woman was a beauty who radiated an air of elegance and maturity. Meanwhile, upon the arrival of these two people, Mysterious Moon's members couldn't help but look at them curiously. Everyone paid especially close attention to Shi Feng. Is he that god-ranked expert? Even though he's standing right in front of me, I can't feel even the slightest hint of his presence. Is this the degree of control a god-ranked expert has over his body? Mysterious Moon's experts wore a look of shock and yearning as they observed Shi Feng's every movement. Tier 6 was a goal that all players in God's domain dreamed of reaching. Yet, despite there being several dozen billion players in God's domain, only a few dozen had managed to reach Tier 6. One could easily imagine how difficult it was to become a Tier 6 God-ranked expert. Now that everyone got to see a God-ranked expert in person, their previously faded ambitions had ignited once again. However, not long after everyone started observing the two new arrivals, they couldn't help but gasp in shock. Level 106. How is her level so high? Shi Feng was wearing a black cloak, so everyone couldn't see his level. However, Sokyun Liu wasn't wearing one, so they could easily determine her level by using a simple identification skill. Meanwhile, what they discovered blew their minds. It seems rumors about the Ice Queen aren't completely baseless, Crimson Seal muttered. He, too, was a little surprised when he saw Sokyun Liu's level. Crimson Seal was the vice-guild leader of Mysterious Moon, a first-rate guild. Thus, he had never paid much attention to the name of Ice Queen Sokyun Liu. Or, more specifically, he had never even heard of Sokyun Liu before coming to the miniature ancient world. After all, Mysterious Moon didn't have any operations in the Black Dragon Empire. The only information Mysterious Moon had bothered to collect was on the Empire's peak experts, first and second-rate guilds, and top 10 adventurer teams. Meanwhile, Sokyun Liu's Thousand Flow adventurer team was barely considered a well-known adventurer team in the Black Dragon Empire. Thus, it was only natural that it did not enter Mysterious Moon's eyes. Crimson Seal would never have learned about Sokyun Liu's name if not for Zero Wing. However, the current Sokyun Liu far surpassed Crimson Seal's initial expectations. Sokyun Liu was only the commander of a well-known adventurer team in the Black Dragon Empire. Yet, in the current miniature ancient world, where only an extreme few experts had managed to reach level 103, Sokyun Liu had already reached level 106. What rapid leveling speed! Zhou Yalin was also surprised by Sokyun Liu's level. She never thought that Zero Wing would be so powerful to help Sokyun Liu level up so quickly. Meanwhile, when Mysterious Moon's members had their attention focused on Sokyun Liu's level, Shi Feng also arrived before the conference table. After Sokyun Liu briefly introduced both parties, Shi Feng made his way up to the conference stage. I believe Miss Nightingale has already informed everyone present of the situation. After sweeping his gaze across the people in the room, Shi Feng got straight to the point and said, Zero Wing is similarly very interested in the Darkmoon outpost. Hence, we plan to work with Mysterious Moon to secure it. May I know what everyone thinks about this arrangement? As soon as Shi Feng finished speaking, silence enveloped the room as Mysterious Moon's experts pondered over his words. They'd be lying if they said they weren't interested in working together with a Tier 6 God-ranked expert. However, if a Tier 6 God-ranked expert was all the assistance Zero Wing had to offer, Mysterious Moon would still be unlikely to win the competition for the Darkmoon outpost. They were going up against a super guild, after all. If they handled this matter poorly, they might end up dragging the entirety of Mysterious Moon into the abyss. A moment later, Crimson Seal stood up from his seat and glanced at Zhou Yalin. He felt that Zhou Yalin was still too much of a greenhorn when handling guild affairs. Or, more specifically, the mystery surrounding Tier 6 God-ranked experts was far too great. Meanwhile, this mystery had clouded Zhou Yalin's ability to make a proper judgment. In his opinion, while Zero Wing might have some capabilities, these capabilities were still not enough for it to go against a super guild. Afterward, Crimson Seal turned to Shi Feng and bluntly said, Mr. Black Flame, you might be a God-ranked expert, but don't you think that you are underestimating world dominators a little too much? World dominators' foundations are not something you can uncover just by spending a few days in the miniature ancient world. In regards to your invitation, forgive Mysterious Moon for rejecting it. You say that I am underestimating world dominators. Looking at Crimson Seal, Shi Feng calmly asked, in that case, may I ask how much do you know about Zero Wing, Vice Guild Leader Seal? As soon as Shi Feng finished speaking, Sokyun Liu, who stood beside him, suddenly unleashed a burst of mana. Sokyun Liu's mana flooded the room instantly, causing every mysterious moon present to experience a suffocating feeling. In addition, everyone also found that they had lost the ability to use the mana surrounding them. However, compared to Sokyun Liu's mana, the aura she radiated was much more terrifying. Faced against Sokyun Liu's aura, many of the refinement realm experts couldn't help but react like frightened rats and instantly retreated by over a dozen yards away from her, their eyes full of wariness as they looked at her. Tier 4 Strength. Crimson Seal was dumbfounded as he looked at Sokyun Liu. Chapter 117 Extraordinary Foundations. How is this possible? Could she have reached Tier 4 already? She's only at level 106 right now, so there's no way she is at Tier 4. It is probably because of her weapon and equipment. That can't be possible, right? It would take at least a fragmented legendary item for her to have such powerful mana and aura. But her staff is giving off an epic ranked glow, while her equipment is giving off a dark gold ranked glow. There's not even one fragmented legendary item on her. Mysterious Moon's members felt as if they were standing in the presence of a mythic monster right now, and they couldn't help but grow confused by this situation. Tier 4 Strength. This was the greatest combat power players could muster in the current miniature ancient world. Even the various superpowers apex experts were only at this level. However, the various superpowers apex experts could only acquire such strength because they had the help of Hall of Fame level epic equipment sets in addition to their extraordinary combat techniques. Even then, only the raw power of their attacks would reach the Tier 4 standard. The standard of their mana would still be at Tier 3. It should be known that Sokyun Liu was only at the flowing water realm. Some of the mysterious moon experts present were even superior to her when it came to combat standards, let alone the various superpowers apex experts. Yet, even without entering combat, Sokyun Liu already possessed strength and mana at the Tier 4 standard. In other words, Sokyun Liu possessed the true might of a Tier 4 player. If Sokyun Liu were to enter combat and use skills, spells, and combat techniques, she could unleash even greater strength. If it came down to a fight, even Crimson Seal wouldn't necessarily match Sokyun Liu. At this moment, let alone Mysterious Moon's other members, even Zhou Yalin and Lin Yayu, who were relatively familiar with Zero Wing's members, couldn't help but be shocked. Is this what Zero Wing is capable of? Lin Yayu's eyes burned with a passionate flame as she scrutinized Sokyun Liu. Although she had previously learned from Shi Feng that Zero Wing was an extraordinary existence in the world it came from, she felt that as an outer world power, the things it could do here should be incredibly limited. She felt that she could, at most, acquire some legacies and combat techniques from Zero Wing, which could, in turn, pave a smoother path for her in the future. If she relied solely on Zero Wing, it'd be impossible for her to become an expert that even the various superpowers feared. However, she no longer felt that way now. After the Thousand Flow Adventurer team joined Zero Wing, Lin Yayu had conducted an investigation into Sokyun Liu. According to her investigation, while Sokyun Liu was indeed a Tier 4 expert in the Black Dragon Empire, she was only at the Flowing Water Realm standard. She might be able to get into the upper echelons of a first-rate guild with such standards, but she definitely couldn't become one of the leading executives. Yet, after joining Zero Wing for a few days, Sokyun Liu had gained strength so overwhelming that even Crimson Seal had to fear her. How many people with such strength do you think World Dominators has? Vice Guild Leader Seal. Shi Feng smiled as he looked at Crimson Seal. 10? 20? Or is it 30? After Sokyun Liu returned to 100 Flow City, Shi Feng had passed the Holy Annihilation Mana technique to her. In addition, he had also given her a drop of Ancient God's Blood, upgrading her mana body to the gold rank. After combining these factors with the Ancient Mana equipment set acquired from the Ancient Demon Court, Sokyun Liu's basic attributes and mana were now extremely close to reaching the Tier 4 standard. The only thing she was missing now was a Tier 4 physique and Tier 4 spells. There shouldn't be more than 10, Crimson Seal said after giving Shi Feng's question some thought. If world dominators invested all of its available resources and manpower into the miniature ancient world, it might be capable of producing 30 Tier 4 combatants. However, if they were only talking about 100 flow cities side, world dominators probably couldn't even muster 5 Tier 4 combatants, let alone 30. World dominators might not have trouble getting their hands on Hall of Fame level epic equipment sets, but it was a different story for epic weapons that rivaled fragmented legendary weapons. Even with world dominators' influence, it could, at most, acquire 30 of such weapons. This was because epic weapons of such caliber were even rarer than the average fragmented legendary weapon. In addition to items, players also needed to be at the domain realm to achieve Tier 4 combat power. In God's domain, domain realm experts were incredibly rare even in the 5 great super guilds, let alone world dominators. Every one of these experts was a core executive in the guild. Currently, out of world dominators as members in 100 Flow City, only Zhou Tiankuang and his 2 vice commanders were likely to have Tier 4 combat power. The likelihood of anyone else having such combat power was incredibly low. What about experts with combat power close to reaching the Tier 4 standard? Shi Feng asked. There shouldn't be more than 20, Crimson Seal answered definitively. Although the requirements for achieving combat power close to the Tier 4 standard weren't as strict, players still needed to be at the Void Realm standard at the very least. While Void Realm experts weren't as rare as Domain Realm experts, they were still relatively rare. Typically, they could be seen working as Legion Vice Commanders in the various super guilds. With there being only 3 legions in 100 Flow City, there was no way world dominators could have more than 20 players with combat power nearing the Tier 4 standard based here. Less than 20. After scanning the crowd before him, Shi Feng said, if Mysterious Moon agrees to partner with Zero Wing will let everyone here gain strength close to the Tier 4 standard. Will that be enough strength to fight against world dominators now? What did he say? How is that possible? Mysterious Moon's members couldn't help but feel that Shi Feng was joking with them when they heard his words. Although achieving strength nearing the Tier 4 standard wasn't as challenging as achieving strength at the Tier 4 standard, it still wasn't something that could be achieved easily. Not to mention, most of the people present were only at the refinement realm standard. Trying to achieve such combat power was nothing but a pipe dream for them. The only feasible way Shi Feng could accomplish such a feat was if he gave everyone here a fragmented legendary item each. However, that evidently wouldn't be possible. Even on the main continent, super guilds would have great difficulty taking out 40 fragmented legendary items on the spot. Needless to say, the difficulty of doing so in the miniature ancient world was exponentially greater. In response to everyone's doubtful gazes, Shi Feng took out one of the standardized ancient mana equipment sets in his bag and put it on the conference table. Then, he said, won't you find out if I'm telling the truth or not if you take a look? Everyone quickly started inspecting the ancient mana equipment set's effects upon hearing Shi Feng's words. A mana equipment set. The 8-piece set effect improves physique by 40%. Isn't this set effect insane? No. What's truly amazing about this set is the mana. The basic attributes the set provides might be inferior to 8-piece epic sets, but the boost it gives toward mana is simply absurd. It practically doubles the power of all skills and spells. Everyone couldn't help but gasp when they saw the standardized ancient mana equipment set's statistics. Although this standardized set couldn't provide players with Tier 4 basic attributes, the improvements it could provide in actual combat were simply ridiculous. With the effects of this set, Tier 3 skills and spells used by Tier 3 players would most likely exhibit power at the Tier 4 standard. Moreover, the higher the player's skill or spell completion rate, the greater the improvements they would see. For refinement realm experts like themselves, if they paired this standardized ancient mana equipment set with a top-tier epic weapon, they could easily hold their ground against a Tier 4 mythic monster. No wonder he has such confidence, Crimson Seal thought as he looked at Shi Feng. He finally understood how Sokyun Liu managed to gain her current strength. 40 sets. Shi Feng said, smiling as he extended 4 fingers to the crowd before him. If you partner with Zero Wing will provide you with 40 of these mana equipment sets. Chapter 118. What about super guilds? 40 sets. What? Zero Wing has 40 of such mana equipment sets. I must be dreaming. Even the 5 great super guilds will have trouble getting 10 of such sets, let alone 40. Everyone couldn't help but doubt their ears when they heard Shi Feng's words. Mana equipment sets capable of surpassing 8-piece epic equipment sets in combat performance were unbelievably rare even on the main continent, let alone the miniature ancient world. If a guild could acquire even 10 of such sets, it'd be nigh unstoppable in the current miniature ancient world. They couldn't even imagine what they could achieve if they had 40 of such mana equipment sets. At this time, even Zhou Yalin, who supported partnering with Zero Wing, couldn't help but think that Shi Feng was joking with them. Although she knew that Shi Feng must have come prepared, the promise he just made simply sounded too exaggerated to be true. If any of the current powers could get their hands on so many mana equipment sets, it'd be a devastating force in the miniature ancient world. It could probably even exchange blows with the 5 great super guilds if it weren't afraid of the repercussions. Meanwhile, after taking a deep breath, Crimson Seal looked at Shi Feng with a serious expression and said, "Mr. Black Flame, if what you say is true, then Mysterious Moon will be willing to partner with Zero Wing to secure the Darkmoon outpost." Crimson Seal's sudden change in attitude stunned many of the Mysterious Moon members present. Of course, everyone could also understand his reaction. There was probably no power in God's domain that could turn down the opportunity to gain 40 of such heaven-defying mana equipment sets. "Don't be in such a hurry to make promises, Vice Guild Leader Seal. I still haven't finished speaking," Shi Feng said with a light smile. He wasn't at all surprised by Crimson Seal's sudden change in attitude. "Although I have talked about the partnership with Miss Nightingale, Zero Wing will not be providing these mana equipment sets for free." "That is only natural," Crimson Seal said, nodding. "There'd have to be something seriously wrong with the brains of Zero Wing's leadership if the guild provided the 40 mana equipment sets for free. It should be known that if any power in 100 Flow City managed to acquire these 40 sets right now, it'd become 100 Flow City's overlord immediately. With these 40 sets as a bargaining chip, Zero Wing could also talk with any of the other first-rate guilds in 100 Flow City and get a good deal." Zero Wing had no obligation to partner with Mysterious Moon at all. After saying so, Crimson Seal couldn't help but glance at Zhou Yalin, who was still in a daze, his evaluation of the girl increasing significantly. Then, he said, "Nightingale is the person in charge of Mysterious Moon's affairs in the miniature ancient world. She can represent Mysterious Moon on all matters here. If you have any conditions to make, feel free to state them to Nightingale, Mr. Black Flame." Crimson Seal wasn't a fool. He naturally noticed the hint in Shi Feng's words. Mysterious Moon only had the opportunity to partner with Zero Wing now because of Zhou Yalin. Without her, there'd be no foundation for their 2 guilds to negotiate partnership on. Thus, it was only right that he let her handle negotiations with Zero Wing. The other Mysterious Moon members present also nodded in agreement with Crimson Seal's words, and this situation caused Zhou Yalin to look at Shi Feng gratefully. Because of a few simple words from Shi Feng, her position in Mysterious Moon had changed completely. Now, she was finally Mysterious Moon's person in charge in the miniature ancient world. Meanwhile, Shi Feng also inwardly sighed in relief when he saw this situation. After reaching this point, he could finally begin carrying out his plans. Immediately, he looked toward Zhou Yalin and said, "Miss Nightingale, since Mysterious Moon has already agreed to the partnership, I can offer Mysterious Moon 2 methods of acquiring these 40 mana equipment sets. In the first method, Zero Wing will rent these sets to Mysterious Moon at a rate of 200 gold and 1000 magic crystals per set per day. In the second method, Zero Wing will sell these sets to Mysterious Moon for 4000 gold and 10,000 magic crystals per set. Zero Wing will only accept one-time payments for both these methods. In addition, after we secure the Darkmoon outpost, Mysterious Moon must give Zero Wing 3 of the 6 shops in the outpost. Of them, one must be the large shop. Mysterious Moon must also give Zero Wing half of the Darkmoon outpost's total revenue. When Shi Feng finished speaking, Sokyun Liu, who stood beside him, frowned slightly. Then, she asked in a whisper, "Are you really going to sell them these sets, guild leader?" Although the standardized ancient mana equipment sets were slightly inferior to the sets looted from the ancient demon court, they were still heaven-defying equipment in the current state of the miniature ancient world. She could understand it if Shi Feng chose to rent these sets to Mysterious Moon. After all, Zero Wing didn't even have the necessary refinement realm experts to take advantage of these sets' full potential. However, she couldn't help but be confused by Shi Feng's offer to sell these sets. If these 40 sets were used on Zero Wing, it could allow Zero Wing to trample over the various powers in 100 Flow City. There'd be no power in 100 Flow City that could oppose Zero Wing. However, if Zero Wing sold these sets to Mysterious Moon, Zero Wing would be unnecessarily creating competition for itself in 100 Flow City. In reality, Sokyun Liu wasn't the only one surprised by Shi Feng's offer. Even Mysterious Moon's members were taken aback. None of them thought that Zero Wing would be selling them these mana equipment sets. It should be known that every standardized ancient mana equipment set could be used to produce a Tier 4 combatant. In the current era where players were still far from reaching Tier 4, the value of having 40 Tier 4 combatants went without saying. "Don't worry. I know what I'm doing," Shi Feng replied without explaining his decision. The standardized ancient mana equipment set might be powerful, but its flaws were also obvious. It had a high upkeep cost. Every durability point consumed required 10 magic crystals to replenish. Meanwhile, it wasn't strange for the set to lose several, or even over a dozen, durability points after a single battle. Such expenditure might not be a problem for a first-rate guild like Mysterious Moon, but it wasn't something the current Zero Wing could afford at all. Not to mention, Zero Wing needed to spend a lot of coins and magic crystals to further its development. Rather than hold onto a bunch of mana equipment sets that Zero Wing couldn't adequately make use of, it'd be much wiser to convert these sets into coins and magic crystals. He could also pull Mysterious Moon in as an ally for Zero Wing by doing so, killing 2 birds with 1 stone. As soon as Shi Feng finished answering Sokyun Liu, Zhou Yalin promptly said, "Mysterious Moon will choose the second method. We will pay the full amount tomorrow. However, we hope Zero Wing can provide us with the 40 sets today. May I know if you can allow that, Mr. Black Flame? After all, there isn't much time left until the competition for the Darkmoon outpost, and it takes some time to gather so many magic crystals." These 40 ancient mana equipment sets were undoubtedly Mysterious Moon's best chance at striking it big in the miniature ancient world. She'd be an utter fool not to buy them. However, an expenditure of 160,000 gold and 400,000 magic crystals was a heavy burden even for Mysterious Moon. It was especially true for the 400,000 magic crystals. Mysterious Moon couldn't take out so many magic crystals right now even if it wanted to. She'd have to request headquarters to transfer more resources over from the main continent. "That won't be a problem." Shi Feng nodded. Afterward, Zhou Yalin and Shi Feng signed a contract with each other, the contract stating that Shi Feng needed to transfer 40 ancient mana equipment sets to Mysterious Moon by today, while Mysterious Moon needed to pay him 160,000 gold and 400,000 magic crystals by tomorrow. After signing the contract, Shi Feng took out the 40 standardized ancient mana equipment sets in his bag and handed them to Zhou Yalin. Then, Zhou Yalin quickly distributed these sets to the Mysterious Moon members in this room. "A super guild, is it?" Fighting spirit burned in Zhou Yalin's eyes when she looked at everyone wearing the mana equipment set. "It's about time you learn who's boss." Ever since the situation in God's domain had stabilized a few years ago, not a single non-superpower had ever dared to challenge a super guild. However, that was all going to change after today. Today, Mysterious Moon would become the first non-superpower to challenge a super guild after so many years. Chapter 119 The Beginning of Madness. New Moon Forest. A 100-man team of level 103 experts geared with dark gold and epic equipment was in the midst of fighting against a horde of undead numbering in the thousands. Although there were quite a few level 105 great lords among these undead creatures, this expert team quickly and steadily reduced the horde's numbers. The leader of this 100-man team was a male berserker wielding a blood-red two-handed saber. In addition to holding off several great lords by himself, this berserker was also issuing commands to his teammates that precisely targeted the weak points of the undead horde. In less than half an hour after the battle began, the 100-man team successfully cleaned up the horde of several dozen great lord-ranked undead knights and several thousand other undead creatures. Not only did the team suffer 0 casualties, but they had also expended little stamina throughout the battle. If they kept up this pace, the team could probably take care of several more undead hordes of such size without having to take any breaks in between. "You're really the best, Boss Blade. As expected of the leader of our guild's 5 demon generals. You're probably the only person in the guild who can lead a team so efficiently." Luo Tiancheng, clad in silver armor and carrying a great sword on his back, complimented as he approached the berserker leading the team. "It's so. If guild leader Shi were still around, this level of combat would be nothing," Rampant Blade nonchalantly said as he glanced at Luo Tiancheng. Ever since Shadow's 5 demon generals disbanded and guild leader Shi Feng left the guild, he had become the only person capable of supporting Shadow's ambitions. Although there were quite a few first-rate experts in the guild that were close to reaching the half-step refinement realm standard, none of them could take charge in large-scale battles effectively. An example would be 2 of Lan Hailong's close confidants, Luo Tiancheng and Zhou Yahu. As for Gu Yiren and those from World Dominators, they couldn't be relied on whatsoever. This was because Gu Yiren never had any intentions of managing or developing Shadow at all. Since taking over as Shadow's guild leader, the only thing he had done was order Shadow's members around to help him with miscellaneous work. Most of the time, Gu Yiren would be doing his own thing with his team from World Dominators. Not once had he helped train anyone from Shadow before. "You're being too modest, Boss Blade. Now that you've reached the refinement realm already, combined with World Dominators' resources, it's only a matter of time before you reach Tier 4 in the future. There's no way that Shi Feng can hope to match you," Luo Tiancheng said, laughing. "Once we complete our mission this time, Chairman Lan will discuss with guild leader Gu to let you become the guild's acting guild leader. At that time, you'll get to manage all of the guild's affairs." Refinement realm. Rampant Blade revealed a bitter smile when he heard these words. "I reached this realm over a year later than Sokyun Liu. I also heard that Sokyun Liu has apparently joined the new guild that guild leader Shi and Blackie established. An expert of my caliber is only strong in a guild like Shadow." In reality, Rampant Blade had received an invitation to join Zero Wing from Blackie. However, he had grown attached to Shadow over the years, and he still had many brothers in Shadow, so he eventually rejected Blackie's offer. "You're putting Zero Wing on too high of a pedestal, Boss Blade. Zero Wing is nothing but a newly established small guild with a few thousand members. Even with Sokyun Liu's 1000 Flow Adventurer team serving as its base, there's no way it can compete with our guild. After all, Shadow now has World Dominators backing it. Once the resources from World Dominators start piling up, our guild will have many Tier 4 experts in the future. In contrast, Zero Wing is going to have a tough time even surviving," Luo Tiancheng said in disdain. In Luo Tiancheng's opinion, Shi Feng's statement to make Shadow disappear was nothing but a joke. Even Chairman Lan Hailong had laughed when he heard of it. While the Miniature Ancient Worlds launch had indeed granted Shi Feng a lot of advantages and reduced the various powers' influence, it didn't change the fact that a guild required resources and experts to prosper. Although Shi Feng now possessed high status in Jinhai Academy was nothing but a God's Domain Academy. The things it could do and the resources it possessed were incredibly limited. Trying to go against Shadow, which had several 100,000 members and controlled 10 city-states, was nothing but lunacy. There was also no competition between the experts of Zero Wing and Shadow. Ever since Shadow received the guild legacies from world dominators, Shadow's members achieved significantly faster growth. Rampant Blade had even become a refinement realm expert thanks to these resources. Even if Zero Wing had a refinement realm expert like Sokyun Liu 1, it still couldn't compete with Shadow in the future. In fact, after Shadow completed the mission assigned by World Dominators this time, World Dominators would be able to control the entirety of 100 Flow City through the Darkmoon outpost. Once that happened, Shadow could take advantage of World Dominators' influence to eradicate Zero Wing. Let's stop talking about this. Have everyone look for the Darkmoon tokens quickly, Rampant Blade said, not bothering to refute Luo Tianquan's words. Based on the current situation, Shadow was indeed growing stronger and stronger. As evidence, even Luo Tianquan had reached the half-step refinement realm already. We need to meet our quota of 200 tokens by today. Otherwise, World Dominators is going to have our training resources. Luo Tianquan nodded. Then, he hurriedly had everyone on the team sort through the loot. At the same time, he sent the team's assassins and rangers to scout around for more undead creatures. Meanwhile, during the time Rampant Blade's team was looting their kills, Rampant Blade suddenly heard a message notification. This has Mysterious Moon gone crazy. Rampant Blade couldn't help but be stunned when he read the message Gu Yiren sent him. Meanwhile, noticing Rampant Blade's shocked expression, Luo Tianquan asked, "What happened, Boss Blade?" Mysterious Moon has suddenly declared war on world dominators. Rampant Blade said after taking a deep breath. Moreover, just a few minutes ago, Mysterious Moon annihilated one of world dominators' 100-man teams. Annihilated. Luo Tianquan was also shocked and confused when he heard Rampant Blade's words. Is Mysterious Moon looking to die? It might be fine if it were merely a simple conflict with a few players from a different guild. World Dominators wouldn't even care if a few of its players got killed. After all, such minor conflicts were frequent in God's domain. There was no way a super guild like World Dominators would bother to pay attention to these trivial matters every day. After all, there were millions of members in the guild. There'd be no end if it tried to take care of every personal conflict that took place. However, it was different if an entire 100-man team got annihilated. It was especially true now that world dominators had declared monopoly over the New Moon Forest. Such an act of transgression represented an entirely different meaning. War. This was a declaration of war. It had already been many years since anyone dared to declare war on a super guild. Meanwhile, the last time it happened, a first-rate guild had gotten erased from God's domain. TL notes. 1. Even if Zero Wing had a refinement realm expert like Sokyun Liu. This isn't a translation error. Shadow most likely isn't aware that Sokyun Liu has become a flowing water realm expert. Chapter 120 Zero Wing. All party leaders. Contact all the nearby teams and have them gather at our location immediately. Rampant Blade shouted after getting over his shock. Gu Yiren had explicitly stated in his message for all guilds affiliated with world dominators to form 1,000-man legions and surround the lake region in the New Moon Forest. Meanwhile, his goal in doing so was very obvious. Mysterious Moon had already angered world dominators. So, now, world dominators was preparing to make a move against Mysterious Moon. Under Rampant Blade's command, his party leaders promptly began contacting the other teams operating nearby, everyone reacting both anxiously and excitedly over this situation. Quick! Bring your team over! Mysterious Moon has declared war on world dominators, and world dominators is now planning on taking action against Mysterious Moon. You're going to miss the show if you don't hurry over. That's right. World dominators must be preparing to take revenge. A top-tier first-rate guild versus a super guild. It's been many years since something like this has taken place. At this time, Shadow's members weren't the only ones excited over this situation. The members of World Dominators' other affiliated guilds operating in the New Moon Forest also grew restless over this situation. Ever since the incident where a super guild had erased a first-rate guild took place several years ago, no more of such incidents took place in God's domain. At most, conflicts between first-rate guilds and super guilds were limited to small fights. This time, however, World Dominators was evidently planning on getting serious. 100 Flow City. Inside a guild-owned 3-story mansion located along the city's main street. 1 first-rate guild, 3 second-rate guilds, and 7 third-rate guilds. It seems World Dominators is really planning on using Mysterious Moon to set an example this time. A white-clad old man sitting behind a desk muttered as he read the news he just received. Do you think we should cooperate with World Dominators this time, Elder Lu? A woman sitting on the sofa in front of the desk asked. The woman radiated a bold aura, and she was sipping on a cup of tea as she spoke to the white-clad old man. Witch's Sin might have become a pseudo-super first-rate guild in these past few years, but we still can't hold a candle to World Dominators, so we still need to send some people over, the old man said with a light smile. But I don't believe Mysterious Moon has gone crazy. Since they dare bare their fangs against World Dominators, they must have their reasons for doing so. Take a team with you. I'm sure Zhou Tiankuang won't make a fuss if we send a team led by one of our vice guild leaders. But remember that you're only there to spectate. You're not there to work for World Dominators. I understand, the woman said as she got up from her seat. Then, with a slight smile, she continued, I can also use this chance to pick a fight with Nightingale. Hopefully, she won't disappoint me. After saying so, the woman vanished from the office as if she had never appeared here before. It seems this little girl is still hung up over the secret pavilion's past evaluation, the white-clad old man said with a slightly bitter smile when he heard the leather-clad woman's words. The woman named Blue Sheath had been entered into the secret pavilion's rookie assassin list together with Mysterious Moon's Nightingale in the past. However, Blue Sheath was ranked one place behind Nightingale at the time. The two of them had known each other since young, and they had always been each other's rivals. So, Blue Sheath couldn't help but feel peeved over the evaluation. Initially, the old man thought that Blue Sheath had forgotten about her rivalry with Nightingale after having most of her time occupied with training under World Dominators. However, it would seem that Blue Sheath had never let go of this rivalry. Meanwhile, during the time Witch's Sin was dispatching experts to the New Moon Forest, a commotion also took place throughout 100 Flow City. What's going on? Why are so many guild experts leaving the city together? Don't you know? Mysterious Moon declared war on World Dominators. World Dominators has decided to deal with Mysterious Moon, so it is now calling on all of its affiliated guilds to gather at the New Moon Forest. News of this has long since spread throughout the entire city. A first-rate guild is declaring war on a super guild? Did Mysterious Moon's leadership lose their minds? Who knows? Maybe Mysterious Moon is confident in winning. Not a chance. That's a super guild we're talking about. The only thing that could come of declaring war on a super guild is death. The players in 100 Flow City began discussing Mysterious Moon's actions as they watched the various large guilds experts leaving the city in large groups. Meanwhile, opinions on Mysterious Moon were split into two camps. One camp felt that Mysterious Moon was simply seeking its own death, while the other camp felt that Mysterious Moon was worthy of becoming the various first-rate guilds' role model. Some people also felt that it might be time to rewrite God's domain's history. New Moon Forest, New Moon Lake. The silvery white lake looked like the moon from afar, and the radiance it gave off illuminated the surrounding forest. The scenery here was spectacular, and many players grinding in the New Moon Forest would often stop by this place to enjoy the view. At this moment, though, the New Moon Lake's beauty was partially eclipsed by the 10,000 or so first-rate experts gathered beside it. Most of the various guilds' experts have gathered here already, Guild Leader Gu. We can conduct a sweep of the forest at any time, Rampant Blade reported respectfully as he looked at Gu Yiren, who was currently resting underneath a tree. Although Gu Yiren had never cared about Shadow's affairs and never bothered to help Shadow's members grind, nobody in Shadow dared to question Gu Yiren's strength and authority. Take the current situation, for example. Even though the various first-rate guilds present originated from 10 different guilds, all of them were under Gu Yiren's complete control. Good. Gu Yiren nodded as he swept his gaze across the small army before him. Split everyone into 1,000 man legions and search the forest. Kill all outsiders you come across. All. Rampant Blade couldn't help but ask. A guild would easily incite anger from the public if it randomly killed players out in the fields. Even when a guild blockaded a map to fight another guild, it would, at most, warn non-enemy players to leave the map. Only when these outsiders refused to abide by the warning would a guild decide to kill them. I don't want to repeat myself, Gu Yiren said as he glanced at Rampant Blade. Also, notify immediately if any of you come across Mysterious Moon's core team. World Dominators must be the one to annihilate them. So, this is a super guild? Rampant Blade had his impression of super guilds refreshed when he saw Gu Yiren's complete disregard toward making enemies. Normally, most powers in God's domain would more or less worry about involving outsiders when declaring war on others. After all, the last thing they wanted to do was to offend a power they couldn't afford to offend. However, World Dominators didn't seem to care about this in the slightest. Judging by Gu Yiren's tone, it would seem that he wouldn't hesitate to take action even if the other party was another super guild. Afterward, the gathered first-rate experts split into 1,000 legions and spread out in all directions, conducting a thorough search of the entire New Moon Forest. Sometime after the hunt for Mysterious Moon's members began, a ranger from Shadow urgently contacted Rampant Blade and said, "Vice Guild Leader, 2 of our assassin parties suddenly got annihilated less than 1,000 yards away from the New Moon Lake. Moreover, the people who annihilated those 2 parties are now heading toward your direction. They're heading for us." Rampant Blade couldn't help but grow confused when he heard the ranger's report. "Can you send their images over?" They were using the New Moon Lake as their base of operations this time. To ensure that they had enough forces to dispatch as reinforcements at all times, they had kept a force of 2,000 players by the lake. Gu Yiren's team from World Dominators was also on standby here. Thus, it'd be suicide for any enemies to come to their location. "Yes. I already captured their appearances with eagle eyes. I'll send the image over now," the ranger said, nodding. A moment later, an image appeared in front of Rampant Blade. The enemies that killed the 2 assassin parties only numbered a few. Meanwhile, every one of them was wearing a black cloak to hide their information. "This is Zero Wing." When Rampant Blade looked at the picture, he quickly noticed 2 familiar figures. Although these 2 players had hidden their player information, they didn't bother hiding their appearances. So, Rampant Blade instantly recognized Sokyun Liu's and Blackie's faces. However, before Rampant Blade could react to this discovery, several figures gradually walked out of the forest ahead of him.